Welcome, I'm the Deadwood Jedi. This is going to be another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today, I'm still grinding with my free-to-play, and I thought to myself, hey, I should do a video letting you guys know what are the best void rares that you should keep on your account. I mean, if you're new to the game, you don't know which ones are good, which ones are bad. So let me share some insight, right? These are rare champions. I got 14 of them on my list. These are rare champions that if you pull them, you will want to build them for your account, right? These are going to be good champions. It's almost, bar none. There are, obviously some, different opinions on these things, right? So I might get some of it wrong. And if you feel like I did, I would like to hear it in the comments. Don't be a jerk about it, but, let me know. Hey, I disagreed with this, or I think this champion should have been on the list. I always love to hear that because as much as I played this game, and I played with almost every of these champions, I haven't played with all of them, right? I haven't really fully utilized them. And, playing with the champion in the early game is actually very, very different from playing with them in the end game. There's, the strengths and weaknesses that they bring is very different depending on the point of the game that you are at. So many of these champions, maybe you don't want to take them all the way up to 60, but they're going to be good as a 4-star level 40 champion or a 5-star level 50 champion. And then you can, do what you will with them later. But I think in general, all of these champions are worth building up and using for at least a good portion of this game. Most of them are going to be worth taking all the way to level 60. Not all of them, maybe, but definitely most of them. So I'm really excited to share this list. I think these are some amazing champions, some of my favorites. So really, really, really happy to get into it and share this with you all. So let's jump in. First champion I want to start with here is Dagger in the Bannerlord faction. Absolutely love this champion. Maybe not game changing, but I built her to 60 on my main and I was not disappointed. She helped me a lot in some of the secret rooms on the Doom Tower floor. But why do I like her so much? What's so great about her? Well, she brings some stuff that's really helpful. She has an AoE attack that brings a decreased defense. Now, it is only 75% chance to land. That is the negative, but it books down a 3-turn cooldown. It's an AoE ability, and I think it's really strong. On top of that, with her A3 ability, she will land a decreased attack debuff, and it will be the big version if the enemy's under a decreased defense debuff. So she brings big decreased attack, big decreased defense. Now, this one's single target. The other one might have been AoE. This is single target, so this part makes her better against like bosses and that sort of thing. But I found her to be very good with waves, just having that AoE decreased defense ability. Her A1's not bad either, right? Double hit and reduces target's turn meter when she crits. That's not a bad thing. She does hit fairly hard. She does have poor base stats though, generally as far as surviving goes. So that part can be really hard to keep her alive. I still think she makes the list for me. Anytime you can get AoE decreased defense, that's really valuable. Single target decreased attack is really valuable. So I think she's worth keeping and building on your team, but I can see a good argument to say why not. Still, I like her. Reliquary Tender, on the other hand, is 100% a champion you build, you keep, and you take all the way up to level 60. She is phenomenal. Now, maybe you take her to level 50. She's probably just as useful, really, from a majority of counts at 50 as opposed to 60, but I took her to 60, and I have not been disappointed. I use her actively on my main account for a lot of the Doom Tower stuff that I do. I really, really like this champion. I cannot emphasize that enough. So let's see why. She brings a revive, single target, so that's not the best, but it's revive on the A3, 5-turn cooldown on that. Not bad at all, right? Revive's always good. But most importantly is this A2 ability that gives you a cleanse, a full team cleanse on a 3-turn cooldown when booked. That's huge. And gives you continuous heal buff on everybody. So not only is she healing, but she's cleansing and she's doing it consistently on that 3-turn cooldown. Really nice. And the A1 isn't bad either with the decreased attack debuff. Even if it is a small one, that can be very helpful for you. It's not a huge chance. I think it books up to 40% or 50%, but that's not bad at all. And plus, for a rare champion, it doesn't take a ton of books. You really only need 3 books in her period, just for the A2 and the A3. You don't really need to worry about that A1 at all. She's got very solid base stats as well, so it's pretty easy to keep her alive and build her up. Definitely somebody I recommend building. Now, Draconis is another really solid champion here that I think is very helpful for a lot of people in their accounts. Now, I didn't build one up to 60. I don't know that you necessarily need to. Maybe it's similar to like a Reliquary Tender, but I know a lot of people will still use them in their endgame accounts, especially for Dune Tower stuff. But I think he's actually a very, very good champion. In early game could be massive for you. His A3 is removes all debuffs from ally with the lowest HP. So it's a single target cleanse, but then gives them a pretty big heal on top of that. So that's definitely nice. 4-turn cooldown when booked. The A2 is a huge shield on all allies, and that's probably why a lot of people use him. 3-turn cooldown, massive shield on all allies can be really helpful for a lot of Doom Tower stuff in the later parts of this game, but early on in this game, a big shield is really, really helpful. And then the A1 is single target, but it will also heal the lowest ally by 7.5% of the damage inflicted. So not my favorite thing, but here's the cool part. HP based damage, so you can build him to survive, and he's only going to do more damage, which means his heal is only going to get better. So he does bring a fair amount of healing and protection in his kit, and that alone is worth building up. Now we get to my favorite champion in the Void Rare category, and that's Bellower. Bellower on my main account was absolutely my biggest pull and my single carry for the longest time. He's an outstanding champion. First off, all of his skills are AoE. All of his skills are AoE, so you can put him in a fun set like Stun or something, and he can be extremely good as that. You can also just build him for damage, and he can solo farm Brutal 12-3 for you, and he can be one of the fastest solo farmers. I think mine does it in 6 seconds or 7 seconds, which is crazy. He's insanely good. But on top of that, his kit brings a lot of good debuffs as well. His A1 has a chance of blocking active skills. That's not bad. That's not bad getting through waves and whatnot. His A2, AoE, decreased speed. Gotta love that, right? A3, decreased defense and decreased attack as an AoE ability. Really, really strong. And this one books to 100%. Everything else I think is about a 75% chance or less to land. But for AoE skills, this is massive, guys. He will help you so much in dungeon waves. He will help you. I actually used him a lot in arena when I first started playing because we didn't have quite the same abundance of champions as we do now, but he's insanely good. He can build them. He's fairly tanky, I would say. Nothing great in his base stats, but he's a really, really, really strong champion. So 100% somebody I would look to build. You can build them really sustain and rely on the set like Stun and help CC the enemy. You can build them with attack and a lot of damage and have him just try and nuke the waves as you go through. But 100% Bellower is a must build. Now, this is going to be an interesting choice because I built a couple Michaelises. I built 2. Why did I build 2? Level 60 on my main account, and he's kind of a ridiculously fun champion. Is he the best champion in the world? No, but his kit is really good and I think brings a lot of utility, especially in the early game. Why? Well, okay, let's look at his A2 ability. He puts a shield on himself that's going to help keep him alive, and he places an ally protection buff on all allies. It is the small version, but even the small version can be really helpful keeping your team alive. He also heals all allies with this ability by 10%. So he doesn't heal himself, he gives himself a shield, and then he heals everybody else and protects them. That's a lot in one skill, right? And it books down to a 3-turn cooldown, so you're going to keep that up a lot of the fight. His A1 attacks an enemy and heals this champion by 30% of the damage. So he heals himself, and then he'll also heal the ally with the lowest HP by 10% of their max HP. That heal won't be for him, but that is a massive thing. So if you can keep him alive, he's going to keep the rest of your team alive. And then his passive ability decreases all the damage all allies receive by 5%, and this champion will receive that damage instead. So he basically has a permanent 5% ally protection, and then he has the ability and the skill to put another 25% ally protection out there. He is a phenomenal carry in the early parts of this game. I definitely recommend building him up. Maybe not to 6 stars, right? You don't necessarily need that, but he's worth building up and keeping on your account. All right, the next champion I want to talk about is not great. This is probably the worst out of all these champions I'm going to be talking about today, but he brings some stuff that I think if you don't have it already on your kit, if you don't have these skills and abilities, he's going to be worth keeping, right? And I'm talking about Haru specs, and the big thing that he brings is actually this increased speed ability, and turn meter fill. It does book down to a 3-turn cooldown, so he's kind of like Apothecary bad, right? But he's gonna bring those, increasing the speed of your team is just a massive ability. It just can't be overstated how important going fast and going often really is. His A1 has a small chance of placing a small poison. That's not a bad thing either, right? With a multi-hit skill, I can definitely get behind that and will help you in things like dungeon bosses all the time to be able to do some passive damage. And then on top of that, he's got a single target revive. That's not a bad thing at all, right? So that's a very strong kit overall, I would say, right? Single target revive on a 5-turn cooldown, the increased speed buff, poisons on the A1. There's a lot to like about Haru specs. And then we get to the other 6-second farmer, and I'm talking about Fellhound, who is phenomenal. Fellhound is just a great champion, and one of the few, he, like I said, is 6-second farmer. This A1, chance to place decreased speed, AoE skill. Gotta love AoE skills on the A1. Really, really strong, right? His A2 ability, continuous heal, reflect damage on all allies. That's massive and can be really good for things like Fire Knight. So you can use him to get through the waves with his A1, and the A2 will help keep you alive and break down that shield. And then his A3, the block damage buff on an ally. So it's a single target block damage, but this books down to a 3-turn cooldown. This books down to a 2-turn cooldown with the reflect damage and continuous heal. He's a very, very, very strong champion, and 100% somebody that can be useful for you as you go through this game, not to mention great as a campaign farmer. And then we get to the Undead Horde, and a champion that I think is super unique. Now, this is one of those champions where I'm like, I feel like this champion should be amazing for you, and I haven't really been able to ever utilize him in content for me where I make him just outstanding, but his kit is really good and definitely worth keeping an eye on. Mainly this, he's got, well, I'm sorry, not this skill. This skill's all right. It's an AoE attack and then puts a shield buff on this champion. It's a really big shield, so that's always solid, right? But I'm talking about this A2 ability where he fills the turn meter of all allies by 30%. That's a really big turn meter fill, and places a 60% increased defense buff. That's the big one on all allies for 2 turns. This is on a 2-turn cooldown, or a 3-turn cooldown. It's a really nice ability. And then his A1 here has a chance for decreased accuracy, right? Now the A1, you'll notice, is based off of attack and HP. His H3 ability is based off of HP, the damage. So you can actually build him to survive and have him do more damage. Always a nice combination here. But having a big AoE increased defense buff, having a big AoE increased turn meter buff is incredibly, incredibly valuable, especially early on in this game. And I definitely think this is somebody I would build up. I would at least take him to level 40, probably take him to level 50, maybe even take him to level 60 once I started to utilize him fully within my team. He's going to be a very good champion for you. Now, this next champion might be the best out of all of these Void champions. He might just be the best. I don't know how else to put it, because he brings so much to the table. I would say he's the best for clan boss. Maybe not the most used, but the best for clan boss. And why? Well, we're talking about Seducer, first of all. Amazing champion. And I mean, look at this guy. Gross. I love it. A1, sleep debuff, right? I mean, look, that's not great for clan boss, but for everything else, nothing wrong with a 45% chance of landing sleep on the A1. I'll take it. A2, AoE hit, books up to 100%, decreased attack. It is the weak version, but if you don't have it already, that's very, very strong. And then the A3, and this is why he's so amazing. If you book him up, there's a 4-turn cooldown, which is fine because it's going to give you an increased defense buff on all allies for 2 turns. But more importantly, a block debuffs buff on all allies for 2 turns. That, I don't know any other rare champions that will place block debuffs on all allies for 2 turns. That by itself is massive, and especially in clan boss can be huge. Now, here's the thing. He pairs with somebody called Temptress, who is not a very good rare champion. And it's too bad because he has this dual ability that's only available when Temptress is on the same team, and it's an ally protection buff, a big one for 2 turns, and places block damage on him for 1 turn. I so wish Temptress was actually a decent champion, because if she was, this would make him an unbelievably good clan boss champion. Unbelievably good. Maybe like honestly, arguably like end game level clan boss champion. Like, he's so good. One of the other great things, everything is defensive based skills. So you build his defense up, he hits harder, which is great. And he's got a really good base defense for a rare champion. 100%. I love Seducer. I haven't always been able to use him in everything, but he is incredibly good champion. Hey, just a friendly reminder, if you haven't already, take a moment and hit that subscribe button as well as that notification bell so you don't miss the next one of these videos that comes out. And of course, if you guys need help with your account, you can go to my website, deadwoodjedi.com, where I'll be happy to look at your squad and make whatever improvements are needed to be made. But, when I'm doing that, I still want to play my own account. That's why I use BlueStacks, which you'll find linked down below in the pinned comment and description of this video. BlueStacks is a great way to run multiple instances of the game on your computer at the same time. And if you enjoyed today's music, we have that SoundStripe link down below in the pinned comment and description of this video as well. Use code DeadwoodJedi, save 15%. Now, the next champion we want to point out is 100% an endgame champion. You'll see her in some of the best dungeon runs in this game, and I'm talking about Renegade, and she has a really unique ability, and this is why we keep her. Basically, she has a chance to decrease the cooldown of an ally's skills by all ally skills by 2 turns. It does hurt her when this happens, right? And it could kill her when this happens. But by reducing the cooldowns of your skills of your allies, what that does is it basically gives you a fresh reset. So if you can kill a wave in dungeons on the first go through, Renegade will reset those skills and allow you to do it all over again. She pairs great with champions like a Seer or a Zavia, somebody that will completely nuke down an entire dungeon wave. And this is how you get being able to farm Dragon in like a minute or less, right? Because of champions like Renegade, she's only equivalency really is Chimera and Yumeko, 2 of the best champions in this entire game. And she's a rare and can be used in place of them effectively. Excellent champion. On top of that, she brings a triple hit with decreased speed and decreased accuracy, and she has a heal reduction on her A1. You know where she's really good? Fire Knight. Fire Knight, incredibly good. She's an incredible champion, really 100%. If you have her on your account, you build her. Don't necessarily have to take her to 60, but 100% you build her. Cannot tell you how many times I've done a takeover, and I'm like, where's the Renegade? Where's the Renegade? I need the Renegade for these dungeon runs. You get her, you build her, you keep her. Now, down here in the Dwarves faction, they actually have some very solid rare voids, but the one I think you're going to want to keep is Bulwark. And Bulwark is he's so good. I remember on my main account, bringing in Bulwark in my team took me from, I think it was a 4-key on Ultra Nightmare to a 3-key. Really, just making that one substitution. He's so very good. The reason why, A1 has a weaken. Now, if you have a better weaken, great. This is the small version, but if you don't, every bit helps, and that can be a very significant help. A2 ability, HP burn. Okay, so we love this, right? We're getting weakened, we're getting HP burn. That's all cool. It's all defense based, so our damage is awesome, but this doesn't seem like much worth bringing in. It's because of his passive ability. When he's attacked, there's a 30% chance of extending the duration of all debuffs on the attacker by 1 turn. This dude, he's very good. He hits actually surprisingly hard, and he can be very good in a lot of areas of this game. But where he's going to be absolutely phenomenal in is Clan Boss, especially Affinity Clan Boss, where he's getting hit multiple times, because this passive works on every hit, not every attack. It is a massive skill and can help give you a completely full debuff bar just because of him. So he is 100% phenomenal champion. Definitely somebody I would bring into Clan Boss on your teams, especially if you don't have better options out there. He's just really good. And then we get to the faction with some of the most impactful of Void champions, rare champions you can have. Talking about Dark Elves, and we'll begin it here with Painkeeper. And you know how I went on about Renegade. Well, Painkeeper does the same thing, but really for Clan Boss mostly, with an AoE ally. Decreases the cooldown of all ally skills by 1 turn. Books down to a 4-turn cooldown. It's just an incredibly powerful skill, where all of a sudden champions like Maneater, who have very long cooldowns of their ability, are viable for Clan Boss. She's outstanding. She also has here's the thing. She's great for Clan Boss. That's where she's used, but she's not just good there. She's really good in a lot of areas. This A2 has an AoE heal ability based off her max HP. So you build her with more HP. The heal's only bigger for everybody else, right? And it's a pretty solid damage ability too. She's very strong as a rare champion. Her A1 double hit and will fill her turn meter by 10%. So if you're outside a clan boss, this skill's really helpful because it's only going to make her faster and get her back to using her abilities, where she cools everybody else's abilities down and heals them with that AoE hit. She's a really strong champion. Obviously, that A1 can make clan boss a little bit trickier, but in general, Painkeeper is an outstanding rare champion. And then, of course, the most endgame out of all these champions is Coldheart here, who just, I mean, it's all about the A3. It's all about the A3, right? She's a very solid champion, but here's the thing. You build her for this ability. She dominates Spider. She dominates Fire Knight. And the reason why is this skill. Decreases the target's turn meter by 100%. Phenomenal. Extra 30% chance of inflicting a critical hit. So you only have to build her to 70% crit rate. And damage increases according to enemy max HP, and it's an extremely strong ability right there. It will do a ton of damage. So, you know, when you build her, you don't really build her attack up. You don't need to, because all we're worried about is that enemy max HP factor with this ability. So build her as sustainable as possible, but with as much crit damage as possible, and only 70% crit rate, and she will dominate for you. Outstanding champion. On top of that, she's got a AoE here that does do some poisons and heal reductions and fun stuff, which is only helpful against Fire Knight. And the A1 is a 4-hitter. 4-hitter. On Fire Knight, that is massive because it will knock that shield down in no time. Really, really good. Well, with heal reduction too. But she is absolutely phenomenal. And then, of course, last, the greatest of all the rare Void champions. I'm talking about Paragon. The cheese himself. In fact, why, you know, I really feel like he should just have a cheese head. I feel like he should have a cheese head. This guy is from Milwaukee. That's what I'm saying here. Why is that the case? Okay, I can go over his whole kit, and it's whatever, right? You know, we've got heal reduction, decrease attack. We've got, decrease in turn meter. It's all based off of defense. None of that matters because all we care about with him is this A2, which can book to a 2-turn duration and will place unkillable buff on himself for 2 turns. But what does that mean? It means he can stay unkillable for the entirety of a fight. He can basically not die. As long as he doesn't get debuffed, like stunned or frozen or something where he misses a turn and he, doesn't have his buff removed, he'll stay unkillable forever. This is how I beat, and how a lot of people beat, Nightmare campaign. When you're trying to face the end boss, you brought in a Paragon and let the boss try to kill Paragon while you just killed him with your other champion, right? That was how I did it. That's definitely an approach to doing it. It's just Paragon's insanely good. He'll help you cheese Spider. If you can keep him full health, the Spiderlings will all attack Paragon, right? So he's very much a cheese champion, but he really helps you advance through a lot of this content, and pulling him can be game-changing, absolutely game-changing out of all of these champions. You don't need him at 60. I've never gotten mine past level 50, but even at level 50, he's helped me do a ton of content. All right, those are the best Void Rare champions early game, really even late game, but specifically for starting off this game, early game. If you pull these champions, you're going to want to keep them. You're going to want to build them up at least a little bit because they're going to be helpful for your account. Obviously, every account's different, and if you have somebody that does this better, then you go with that person. But generally, these are all champions that you're going to want to keep and hold on to your account. So I thought it was very, very kind of fun. Now, did I miss anybody? Is there somebody on this list I should have put on this list that I didn't? Is there somebody on this list that you're like, that guy doesn't fit? Let me know in the comments. I would love to hear from you guys. Just be polite about it, but I really do. Actually, I read them and I take advice from that. And I go, oh, okay, that's something I'll have to keep that in mind for the future. So it's always helpful for me to have that kind of dialogue with you guys. And so I want to say thank you guys, not only for being here and watching the video, but for subscribing, which I'm hoping you're doing, hitting that like button. And yeah, until next we meet, I'm the Deadwood Jedi.